Putin threatens Trump on efforts to acquire Greenland. We will not allow encroachments. Guys, we have now been speaking about Greenland for a while. Now, don't get me wrong here. I like the idea of it because, it's very small. How about this here? The population is very small. The landmass is absolutely gigantic. It's the largest island that is on Earth, right? There's a lot of untouched area there that modern man has not touched. What is underneath this ice? I want to know, right? But in fact, it's Denmark's. So if we do end up acquiring it, which we won't, but we can, play around and have a theoretical conversation, let's say. If we do get it, that'll be great. But they have benefits of being in the European Union, let's say, or being a European Union adjacent, let's say, that we just do not have, healthcare and things like that, right? So I can't imagine them wanting to come to our system, right, willingly. If that makes any sense. That's not a thing that I can imagine actually happening. Our system of healthcare is garbage in comparison. They have longer wait times, but they also don't go into debt and destroy their families, let's say, over somewhat small emergency room visits, let's say. I just can't imagine why they would want to come to us willingly, at least. But either way, let's see where this goes, guys. Just a suggestion via Discord.
So Ukraine President Zelensky is urging the U.S. to respond with action after he says Russia violated the partial ceasefire by damaging his country's energy infrastructure. This as North Korea is sending 3,000 more troops to the Russian front lines. Really? Former CIA station chief Dan Hoffman served in Moscow. One of his stops can tell us what he thinks. So we thought we had an agreement on no energy infrastructure and no hits in the Black Sea. What's happening?
Exactly what I think all of us knew was going to happen, bro, with Putin.
Well, Vladimir Putin will say one thing for media consumption. That's a lot of lies and obfuscation, and it's what he's been doing since he was in the KGB decades ago. And then his army will carry on these attacks because his strategic objective, Brian, continues to be to topple the government of Ukraine, install a puppet regime, and concurrently try to drive a wedge between the United States and Ukraine and between the United States and our European NATO partners.
So we have to make him pay a price if these talks collapse. That would be
they're going to collapse.
Sanctions, enforcing the ones in place, and possibly flood Ukraine with even more weapons. There's got to be some type of hell to pay if Russia continues to be insincere to this point and try to do a delay a game with the talks, right?
Yeah, guys, this definitely sounds like WW3 if that's the case here. But guys, we have to be honest with ourselves here. We definitely want a ceasefire because we definitely want to stop having to send money, copious amounts of money, to the Ukraine, specifically for nothing to be returned back to us in any manner. This is just a good faith gesture, apparently. So when it comes down to what Putin is doing, guys, how can we deal with him? It's going to end up in a way that's absolutely crazy, guys. The easiest way to stop WW3 is to basically not allow Putin to kind of continue on what he's doing, but you cannot believe a single thing that he says. So where are we at here, guys? You can't believe nothing that he says. All right.
Yeah, I think all of those policy options are on the table. And look, I was in Hanoi covering the summit there when President Trump walked away from a bad deal with Kim Jong-un. Sometimes you have to do that. And just overnight breaking, Iran wants to negotiate over their nuclear program. So we need to continue to show that we're good, tough negotiators and to ensure that our national security is at the forefront of our policy decisions. That's what the Trump administration is doing, and that's what they need to do in this case. Europe will take the lead on defending their continent at the point of attack, and we can be there supporting them.
Iran last night responded to the president's letter from a few weeks ago and said it's open to indirect nuclear negotiations with the United States, but rejects direct negotiations. So
basically nothing.
We don't have much time to delay. It's going to be a tough decision. So here's what Vladimir Putin said about our plans with Greenland, tongue-in-cheek. We will now allow encroachments on the sovereignty. We will not allow encroachments on the sovereignty of our country, and will reliably protect our national interests. What do they have to do with Greenland? Are they talking about Arctic?
Think about where it is.
Well,
Think about the
Vladimir
seas
Putin
that are around
wants
it.
the world to believe that Russia is able to stand toe-to-toe with the United States militarily and diplomatically. So if there's an issue of interest to the United States, Vladimir Putin is just going to weigh in on it because, remember, he's talked about the greatest geopolitical disaster of the last century was the collapse of the Soviet Union. So he harkens back to those days when United States and Soviet leaders would gather and solve the world's problems. That's just not the way it is anymore, but he'd like the world to think it is.
Earlier this week, Vladimir Zelensky, in an interview, I think it was with the Daily Mail, came out and said, don't worry, Vladimir Putin will be dead soon. He sees his mortality in everything he does. What's he building that on?
Hope. That's what he's hoping for.
That there's any indication that Vladimir Putin's going to be gone anytime soon.
Right.
But keep in mind that when he is gone, there's no indication that there won't be some other KGB or Russian intelligence officer to take his place. That's why I think we need to make this war more of a loser for Putin than it already has been. Make it clear that imperial land grabs of this sort won't be tolerated and that we and our allies will stand up against them and defend against a violation of a country's territorial integrity and sovereignty.
And lastly, we have a situation with the ongoing negotiations with Ukraine and Russia. You say if we really want to know what Vladimir Putin's thinking, rather than looking at what he's saying, we should go to CIA Director Radcliffe. Why?
He knows everything.
Absolutely. Vladimir Putin will obfuscate and lie publicly. He does it all the time. In my experience at CIA, having spent years tracking Putin and trying to see the world through his twisted KGB eyes, we always relied on our human source intelligence and our signals intelligence to understand what Putin's real intentions were and his real plans. And I think that's the key to understanding Russia. Look, Putin lives in a KGB cocoon. He doesn't want us to understand what's going on in his country so that he can lie and obfuscate. But GCI Radcliffe has a great team behind him, and I'm sure the president is asking him every day for all of those secrets about Russia and Putin and his team.
And I think President Trump's eyes are wide open. He was asked, what about Russia? Are they trying to just delay these talks and string him out? He said he might be, okay? We'll see. In other words, my eyes are open. I'm not going to wait too much longer. Dan Hoffman, thanks so much.
All right, guys. Yeah. I didn't really have much faith in it, but I was definitely hoping that we could get something, if that makes any sense here. The amount of money that we have been basically giving is just frustrating to me, bro. Specifically with nothing in return, a little frustrating. But now, how do you do a deal with someone who is just basically, you cannot trust them? Because no matter what they say, they're going to legitimately do the exact opposite of it. They're going to say what you need to hear right now. But then in actuality, the actions of said person are reprehensible. Right? So how do we deal with this? Where do we go from this? Where do we go from here? Yes. It just seems to be like almost cyclical now. I'm glad that there are much smarter people than I sitting down thinking about the same exact thing right now. How do we do this without basically starting WW3? We don't need that. We don't need that. Right? We're already in like a wild, crazy economy, guys. All right? And I mean, listen, Zelensky, he did basically tell the president in the White House that you don't really care that much. I'm paraphrasing here. You don't really care that much. You're far from the fight. Because think about it, guys. All the wars and battles seem to always start and end in Europe, guys. Europe gets destroyed basically like every couple hundred years. Every 100 years, let's say, certain parts of it, because that's where we're going to fight. We're not going to fight here and wreck our stuff, right? So, and I think Zelensky was basically kind of pointing that out. Like, listen, you don't really have a dog in the fight because you're too far from people, causing actual massive amounts of damage to you like that. But anyway, let's see where this goes, guys. We're going to follow the story, obviously. I'm definitely not hoping for any type of WW3 type action, guys. But either way, let me know in the comments what you guys think. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. And if you guys are new here, please like and subscribe.